All right, it's that time of year where kids are getting out of high school, and this piece of advice goes for anybody looking for a job. Get an internship because you are going to learn a lot. It's a great way to break into a business that you're interested in. I happen to be interested in radio when I was in college, so I did get an internship at a radio station called 97 Rock in Buffalo, New York, back in the early 1990s. The guy I interned with, his name is Jim Pastrick, and I learned so much from him. As you're about to find out, it's interesting to reconnect with somebody who actually taught you a lot of great tricks and things about radio and, life in general that I still use today. In fact, I've taught the things I learned in my internship 27 years ago to people today still. So an internship to me has been very valuable. Today, we're going to talk about radio. We're going to talk about luck. Luck plays a big role in a lot of people's lives, and you're about to find out. We talk about news. We talk about everything under the sun you can imagine. And if you're not a radio geek like me, you will probably pull away some interesting tidbits about advancing in your career. But it is a lot of goofy radio stories, and we waste no time getting right into it. You get a couple of radio production nerds like us together, we start right away. Today, I'm talking with Jim Pastrick, Buffalo Radio Hall of Fame member. And to use one of his phrases, long before Facebook friend. It's like
I'm a wizard with Cool Edit Pro and Adobe. I mean, I can make that stuff. People come to me and say, hey, man, how do you do this? I want to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, let me see. I've done that before. Let me just run it through and I'll get back to you. And then I go, it's like, do it 5 minutes ago. Yeah. That's the way we do it. I just go, okay. And I get really jazzed up because I like imparting information to people, right, especially radio, especially correct information.
Well, in the world we're living in, obviously that's the challenge, man. You remember back in the day, you'd read the AP wire, you'd run down the hall and you'd tear that thing. And I'm showing some age now. And you're like, this is all true information. You never questioned it, did you?
Yeah, those were the days. Now there's alternative facts. There's variants of truth. There's like, I don't want to deal with that. It's black or white, 0 or 1. 2 and 2 is 4. It's always 4. It will always be 4. It was 4 when the Arabs or Persians developed algebra and complex mathematics. It's going to be 4 2,000 years from now when I'm worm meat. It's right. Always going to be 4. 2 plus 2 is always 4.
And you know what? Okay, we're all going to have different opinions, but I remember sitting around radio stations, and obviously everyone in the radio station loves to talk and hear themselves speak, even off the air, and getting in these amazing conversation with people, right? When listeners listen, okay, you got your morning drive guy and you got your afternoon and your midday guy, and you've got a certain idea what they're really like, right? Their little bit of persona in real life comes out across the radio. Well, you get these guys in a room all talking, and man, it is different worlds. You might have voted for this guy and you might have voted for this guy, but on the radio, in a rock radio situation, we don't really dive into that world. So when you get those personal opinions, which you only ever got in the break room or kicking it with a beer, getting wings after work, nowadays, and that's probably the same for any workplace ever, but nowadays you've got social media where all that stuff that used to be in these little confined trust areas, break rooms, is now just spilled out everywhere. And that's where it gets weird.
Yeah, there's an old axiom that, with me, everything's old, but there's an old axiom that says the best shtick that happens in a radio studio is always done when the record or the song is playing and the guys are talking back and forth. And to some extent, that's true, because you go on the radio and I don't think anybody, I'll speak for myself. You don't really try to modify your persona because too many people know you in Buffalo, everybody knows everybody, you know, or they know, hey, I went to school with him, or his brother, I played basketball with his brother, or I know that guy from this place, or, you know, I bumped into that guy at a concert or whatever. So in a market like Buffalo, there's not a lot of room for bending the truth or bending the persona, because as I call it, it's the world's largest small market. And you lived here, you know how it is. And maybe NOLA is the same way. They call it NOLA, or they call it New Orleans.
You know, NOLA is kind of shorthand where you're writing it out a lot
Yeah.
of times, you know, and T-shirts and goofy stuff. But getting back to your point about a small town, big city, small market mentality. When I moved here in the fall of '96 to help start a radio station. And it's the same concept, man. It's a major market city. It's a big city, but it's a small town. When I say a big city, I mean it's got everything you could want from a big city. You know, the CBD, the downtown, pretty damn small. You ride your bike around in about 20 minutes. You know, it's like Buffalo. You could hit the whole main stuff down there, 20 minutes. But the reach, and you know this person, it's that whole Kevin Bacon 6 Degree thing. You know, so yeah, being real on the radio is what I learned that from you. And I learned that from all those guys in Buffalo, man. Don't have a shtick. Don't be be real. Warts and all, be real. And like you, and then all the guys at that station at 97 Rock, and then at the Fox, I learned so much of that from those guys. And it was like, it stuck with me to this day. I still like, oh man, that's not me. I'm not going to say it like that. I'll go and redo stuff sometimes.
Yeah. You know, you call to mind 6 degrees of separation. And I have said this for too many years. They say there's 6 degrees of separation, except if you're from Buffalo or maybe New Orleans, then it's 3 or 2 degrees of separation. I'm sure it happens to you because you're established there. You've been there through a couple of different stations and a couple of different formats, and you live life there. You live life there. When you live life there, it's like, my mail guy comes by, our mail guy for the neighborhood comes by a couple of years ago, and I'm up to my elbows in dirt doing planting, which I'm not particularly fond of. I do well, but I'm gritty. I got crusty jeans on. I got dirt all over the place, and I got a cold beer, sitting on the ledge over there in the shade. And he walks by and he goes, I don't think you radio guys did that stuff. I don't think you guys got your fingernails dirty. And I look at it and go, fingernails are dirty, real dirty. Happens all the time in this place. I got a job list. I got stuff to do. And he laughs. He goes, yeah, it's same at my place. I said, just because I'm on the radio doesn't mean I don't get my hands dirty. You know what I'm saying?
It never fails, man. Like the one time you hope something like that happens is when you might be like at an event where you're dressed up in a nice suit or something, or you're like, now would be a cool time to meet people. Like it's when I got grease dripping off my arms. I'm changing the oil in my car. Someone goes by, hey, Ginty, what's up? I'm like, now, or you're worse yet, you got that shopping cart full, and it's never like full of cool man stuff, like, meat. It's always like your wife asked you to pick up certain items. And you know what I mean? You're like, why now? It never happens at that awesome moment. There's never that perfect, like, yes, cool shirt, hair looks good. I brushed my teeth today. How are you? Nope. It's when you're at your worst.
Well, I kind of like the fact that people see when you're gritty and you're one of them, and they know that you do the same stuff that they do. I like that. I like being, recognized or not. I like being acknowledged.
Yeah. No, it's weird. It's weird. The outside perception of radio, people who work in radio and on the air, is very interesting. It starts with the whole, and I'll never forget this, man. Like, cause when I interned with you, right? Like I listened to you every day on the radio, everyone that was at 97 Rock at the time, Anita West, Russo, and all those guys. And like, being a radio geek, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And then I went and met you guys, and I'm like, that's what that dude looks like? And it freaked me out. And how many times have you had that same phrase? You don't look like what you sound like. And then how many times did you meet somebody and went, damn, That's not what I expected you to look like.
Yeah. I remember it happens. I don't know. There's somebody I worked with used to have a witty line that I'm trying to put together here, Jason. It's like, yeah, on the radio, I'm 6'2". I got dark brown hair and I'm cut and I'm whatever. Tom Cruise in his better days or whatever. And my line is like, yeah, what you see is what you get, man. I'm sorry. This is it. You can't put lipstick on this pig, man.
No.
And in a way it's cool that people say, you're nothing like I thought you looked like. Because then that the function of radio, the theater of the mind, the imagination is working with them. But, to be honest with you, I don't think I ever, even when I was substantially younger, was perceived as a matinee idol by listeners. I always thought they thought that I was I don't know, a skinny kid on the radio, a lucky skinny kid on the radio, because I really I attribute to being on the radio a lot to luck. I mean, in my situation, and not that I want to. I was inducted to the Buffalo Broadcasters Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. And, they give you the 10 minutes to do this. Hey, thank you very much. And and you spend some time putting it together. A production guy, you always kind of like, I better write something out so it makes sense. I wrote this thing up, which is was a little bit too, in retrospect, I'm one of those guys that like 2 days later go, oh man, that could have been so much better. You ever do that? It's like, oh, that bit could have been so much better if only I did this, this, and this.
Every break I've ever done in my life. Yes.
And people who listen, I don't think they realize how much, how critical we are of ourselves. How, there are times when, so anyway, let me get back to the story. So when I'm inducted, I thought to myself, be humble. Don't be a jerk. Because there's enough people that think I'm a jerk already. So don't solidify. Don't confirm their impressions. Okay.
Knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. Bang. I was right on the money with this guy.
All right.
Asshole. So I said, what's one of the things that you can attribute your career to? I'm thinking, I hate to say it, but luck. So I started and I thanked people who said yes. I said, I thanked the guy. I was 17 years old. I was knocking on radio station doors. I had a third-class license, all that other stuff. I was a radio geek, and I'm knocking on doors, and people were like, 17, get out of here. Come back in 5 years, But there was one guy who said, all right, I got a Saturday night thing. Nobody wants to do it. You're the guy. Oh, and also Sunday morning, you get to sign the station on the air, FM station. You get to sign it on the air at 6 o'clock and play the religious programs. And then, then you can do a 4-hour big band, play big band music like Sinatra and Tony Bennett and Ferrante and Teicher and, stuff like that, which I knew because my parents were music oriented. So I knew enough about Sinatra to bullshit my way through it. As long as they didn't say too much, you know how that is,
Oh yeah.
Keep all right, don't say too much. Don't say too much because you give yourself away. You'll reveal yourself. Yeah. So I thanked people. So the first part of that was like, I want to thank this guy. I want to thank this guy. I want to thank this guy because it's luck. So getting back to what you were saying about how you come into a radio station. And I remember you were at N-Trip and Niagara County Community College for those who, are out of
Community
town.
college, baby. It's where it's at.
You and your buddy.
Oh my God. Yeah. Community college.
I love you guys. I really did. Cause I think you guys were, you guys came in a class where we, not I, but I administered the program for the company that was my responsibility in it. And they ran it by the book, Credit, got to have credit hours, got to have, this and that. So I remember you two guys came in and we actually needed interns. We really needed interns. And I was like, I went to my boss, John Hager. I said, got 2 guys this year, both from N-Trip, and no Fredonia, no Buffalo State, and yada, yada. I said, I'm going to get a hold of them a little bit later today, just talk to them and see what the deal is. And I got to talk to their academic advisor and all that other stuff. So that's another thing. People don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. You do a show, but you got all this stuff to take care of, right? I mean, you got stuff to take care of. It's not just like cracking the mic and going, "Hey, how you doing, man? It's 22 minutes after. Did you see that Saints game yesterday? Right. Wasn't that run back sick?" You got stuff to do. And it consumes a lot of your psychic energy, your like when you go on the air, you kind of have to clear things out, right? You have to focus yourself.
Oh yeah.
True.
Totally true. I mean, I've always said, as soon as you walk through the door of a studio, your dog got run over, your wife's pissed, your car's got a flat, all that goes away. You put that over there and it's gone for 5-7 hours, however long you're on the air, which is kind of cool in a way, because you can forget about it. But then as soon as you walk out, boom, it's back. But you have to compartmentalize it in your brain and be able to flip that switch, which is great information, or it's a great way to handle and walk away from problems. It's why you go to the movies, to escape for 2 hours. We have to do it in radio. Block all that out, because you know what? Every one of your listeners, if you go on the air and start bitching about your dog got hit by a bus, you know what? That's not a good radio. And they all got their own damn problems. They don't want to hear about yours. That's what I was always taught.
Yeah, I concur. And sometimes I've crossed that line. And I've learned from that experience of like, too much information, man. Dial it down. You're not. It's not about you. It's about them. It's not about me. It's about them.
Right.
And okay, it's cool that you reveal yourself. Hey, I'm a little bummed today. I had to take my dog to the vet, but you know what? Everything's going to be cool. You're going to take it one day at a time. And I'm sure you probably got your problems with, if you got a dog, you know what it's like. So here's a block of Led Zeppelin, man. Let's rock it.
All better. Yeah. Led Zeppelin fixes everything, man.
Right. So anyway, the intern program, I get you and Rod Ryan, both from N-Trip. 2 different personalities, both good, but cut from the opposite end of the cloth. All right. And I remember this to this day. Both of you guys were good. Both of you guys were extraordinarily hungry and interested and dedicated, and you wanted it. You wanted it. You realized you were in a good situation for interning. You took advantage of it. You had fun with it. You learned. But I remember finals. I remember final assessment. And to this day, this is Rod Ryan. I give him his grade. It's all official because I got to file all this paperwork with your advisors at N-Trip. Yep. So he comes in after his internship is done, kind of like, "Hey, thanks a lot, bye." He comes in, he goes, "I got a question for you." And he's mildly pissed, but he's not throw you up against the wall pissed, but he's mildly perturbed. He goes, "Yeah, okay, what's up, man?" He goes, "You gave me a B. A B. I busted my ass for you, and you gave me a B." So, I'm in a production room, and that's my domain. You know how that room was. That was me.
Yeah.
I mean, so I said, "Sit down, man." So if you remember that production, I think there was a raised part of it. Was there a raised? I can't remember anymore. It's like, no, there wasn't a raised, but there was a part like where the announcers sat, right? Mm-hmm. And then there was a part behind the board where the producer or jock sat if you were doing stuff yourself. So I said, "You're pissed at me because we gave you an opportunity to learn and to participate and kind of have a good time doing it and hang out. And a B is pretty good last time I checked. I deserved an A." And I said, this is where this is where, this is where the guy in radio, goes like, you bastard. So I look at him, I have never given an A to any one of my interns, not 0, 1. And some of them have done far more and better than you. And then I realized, oh, dude, that's way too strong. You can't, because that was kind of like the smackdown. And I didn't want to do that because you guys were good. And I liked both of you guys. I to this very day, I'll see stuff from Rod and I'll go, that's Rod, man. Or I'll see stuff from you. I go, Jason, rocking it. So I have this sense of pride. So before he can respond, I dial it down. I say, listen, B to me is like an A, and you should consider that as an A because I'm a tough grader and I really have never given anybody an A. And I said, I had Todd Brody, I had Greg Harvey. I had a lot of interns over the years. And by the way, these guys are guys who are working in Buffalo radio now. Okay.
Right.
And they're good guys and they're talented. I mean, now they've got 30 years of experience under their belts. Right. And they've got interns and they've got, they're doing grades and stuff like that for their interns. So he kind of, it's Rod. It's like, sits there, he looks at me, and Rod's a pretty big guy, he's pretty, yeah, I get it, but I still think I should have gotten an A.
The great part about that story is that we talked afterward. We talked every day, after our internships were over. And he goes, I can't believe I got a B. I go, dude, I got a B. I go, yeah. Do I think I should have got an A? Probably, but who doesn't think they should have got an A? I said, and I kind of said the same thing you're saying, like, dude, we got to do something that nobody gets to do. I go, yeah, the B thing is weird to go, when you go back to your school and they're like, you got a B? What the hell did you do? I'm like, dude, relax. This is a community college. We're not going to ruin your reputation. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're going to be okay. To this day, I'm best friends with Rod still. Like, he's the godfather to my daughter. Like, we have been together since we met in, not together like that, but together as friends from then. And it comes up. And anytime I want to give him some shit, I'll go, dude, where'd you get an internship? To this day, that pisses him off. I'm not even joking. He gets pissed. He's like, God, he's still like, we talk about doing Pastricks and we've all, he's done it. He's had interns over the year and I've had interns. And I always go back to what I learned at my internship and other things along the way, obviously. But he gets hot still, dude. It's so great to hear you tell that story, man. I love that.
Oh, I was telling like a B from Pastrick is equal to an A+ from any one of your professors. So,
absolutely. But you get what I say when you go back to your school and they're like, a B, man, we vouched for you and we worked our ass to get you into that internship program. I'm like,
yeah.
Again.
And I get that totally. And, you do this whole written assessment. Oh, and by the way, my written assessment for you guys was like over the top.
Through the roof.
Okay? It was over the top.
Yeah.
Would you hire these guys? Yeah, I'd hire these guys. Would you recommend these guys? Yeah. Would you recommend this person, not these guys, this person?
Right.
Yes. And that alone, I mean, that's gold in its own right. When you say, yeah, I'd hire him. I'd recommend him, sure.
Absolutely. So I cared about, I saw that B and I went, would you hire this guy? I went, yeah, I'm good. Yeah. I looked at it that way,
So I said to her, their great point. I said, I don't know what their great point is. I said, I gave them both a B. And I said, it's a true and honest B. And then I said, listen, I've had probably about 30 interns over the course of my, the last 5 years. I said, I've never assigned an A to any one of them. I said, because if I assign an A, that means there's no more room for growth. There's no more, there's nothing for you as an intern or as a student further to learn, either from me or for somebody who's even better than me or smarter than me or more accomplished than me, So along those lines, I explained this to her and she was cool with it. I mean, she's like, yeah, because she's an academic. She says, I understand that. And I think maybe she was like, well, but a lot of our interns get A's. You know, she didn't say that to me, but I got the implication that, but I told her, I said, this is not an easy internship, project course setup here. I mean, so yeah, we got guys who do dubs and we make people learn. I said, but we run them ragged to do them right because they run on a top rated radios too. Actually, we had WGR AM and 97 Rock FM. I said, they run on highly rated radio stations. We do not accept crap on the air. So I said, when we give them a dubbing project, if I have Jason or Rod dub 20 commercials, network spots that come down from the net back in the day, you get a reel and, all right, God, man, dub these on the cart. I want them toned properly. I mean, I want the levels right. I want the phase checked. I want everything clean. So then when it runs on the air, your name is on it and I can say, good job. So I said to your advisor, I said, we assign them some very important projects that eventually end up on the radio, on the air. So along those lines, what we're asking of them is their very best. And we take the time to teach them as well as we possibly can, because they're a reflection of us eventually. I mean, you go out to another station or another market, it's like, who taught you this crap? Well, this is half-assed, man. You don't do it this way.
Right.
No. When you go out to another market, another station, and you're doing stuff, your boss says, wow, man, you picked it up right. I don't know where you learned that stuff, but that's the right way to do it. Or even better, you become the standard of like, no, man, we don't do it. This is the way you do it. This is the right way. This is the way it gets done. And you become the standard of excellence.
And that's what you hope. I mean, that's what's cool. And I wanted to talk about this quickly. First of all, two things about this whole situation with the B, right? Because I think it's great. I looked at it and went, but Rod's a different cat. It was great training because how many times do you get kicked in the teeth in the radio business and how many times you told no? You know what? That dude's been told a million times and it's worked for him. So I think, that was a good original lesson in, hey, not getting your way or not getting what you wanted out of radio. And so that's kind of cool. The other thing is, and this goes back a little bit sooner, the internship program, right? I'll never forget this. I tell the story a lot when people ask me. I say, listen, I came from a community college. I'm standing in the lobby of my favorite radio station that I grew up listening to, and I'm trying to get an internship. This is mind-numbing in itself, right? And I remember talking to you the first time, and you kind of said, well, we don't give internships to community college. We want Buff State, Fredonia. We want 4 years. So we don't do that. And I swear, man, I melted right into the carpet when you said that. I was like, holy crap, I've been working my ass off for months to try to get here. Dude just says, sorry, we can't do it out of a technicality. I'm like, crap, now what? But somehow a lot of people were working behind the scenes, or you're just trying to give me shit. I don't know either way, but it worked out is my point.
Well, you remember a couple of minutes ago, I was telling you that I went to my boss and said, I only got 2 intern prospects this semester. So that timing thing that they say, it's all about timing, being in the right place at the right time. So it worked for you. But I want to tell you something. I was in your shoes when you stood in the lobby to be interviewed and come in for that, you and Rod. I was in your same thing when I was, 17 and knocking on doors and
sure.
Hi, I really want to be in radio. I got my license and,
Yeah.
Right. And I get the, I got the guy who, smokes a pack of Luckies and, has a quart of Jack under the desk. And he's like, dude, son, you come back and see me when you graduate from UB or Buffalo State. Okay. Maybe we can work something out.
Yeah.
Man,
always the way.
Yeah. So I was there. I empathize completely with you. I was there.
Mentoring. Okay. An internship and when you're in the heat and looking back, right. And I'm not like a nostalgia guy. I'm always looking forward, there's a reason why your eyes are on the front of your face. You're looking forward all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
But lately, cause you got time on your hands, cause you're cooped up all the time. I've been thinking about like the past a lot more and, mentoring. how important it is. You know, probably in the day when you're gunslinging, you were doing like afternoons or middays, and you were doing production, and you were doing the internship program, and you're flying around and working your butt off, right? In that moment, do you realize, I know you're trying to teach, but do you realize the impact that everything you do, it's like throwing a stone in a calm pond and the ripples go out. Do you realize in the moment, like, hey, I'm teaching this dope for life? Does that ever cross your mind? Because now, it never did when I had interns, but now I'm thinking, holy crap, you know, there's a responsibility to mentoring people. You know, there's a reason I'm talking to you right now. You've given me so much advice over the short time period we worked together. I'm still using it. You know what I mean? So mentoring is a big thing.
You know, I don't think there's a bigger compliment that any mentor could get from one of his or her students than to hear what you just said. Honestly, I'm not blowing smoke. To this very day, when I hear people that I worked with or people who went through the internship program, now their parents, some of them are grandparents actually. They started early, but you know, their parents, they got kids, their kids have gone through school, and I'll hear them on the radio and I'll go, I said this to you. I sent you, you know, I never write short, by the way. I've never written short messages. I sent you this like, man, I just love listening to you. You know, you're NOLA, you got the voice, you got the sound, you got the attitude, the persona. You're just, you reflect it. And I thought, damn, this guy's got it. He nailed it. I mean, and Rod too. Rod's the same way. He's in Houston, right? I mean,
yeah, he's killing it in Houston, doing great.
He's killing it in Houston. I go, dude's major market. He's in Houston. He's in freaking Houston. I'm retired out of a gig in Buffalo. He's in Houston. How cool is that? So, yeah, there are times when and they're usually quiet moments. You know, you're sitting back, and I remember our desks were like right outside the production room. We had a nice little, it was a tight setup, but it was nice. It was clean. It was orderly. And no, I'm all about clean and orderly. You know that, you know. And excuse me, you sit there, you think, oh my God. You know, there are times when it hits you and you say, am I setting a good example for these guys? I mean, and you know, I was bitching too much about the company today, or I was bitching about my program director, and they don't need to hear that. They really don't need to hear that. Or I was bitching about a salesperson. And you know, in production, there's not a day that goes by when you're not going, dude, it's 30 seconds, 29.5, so I can get out in time, put a little music bed under it, maybe do a little razzmatazz. I can't put 12 pounds of stone in a 10-pound bag. I can't do it.
I've used that to salespeople. I said the same damn thing. Oh my God. I love the fact that production people know it's 29, baby. Give me 29. I'll make you a great spot. Don't give me 70 seconds.
No. And I was like, I like this, like, well, you can take of and the and after out. I said, that's 4/10 of a second. That's 4/10 of a freaking second. I need you to trim 4 seconds out of here. That's 2 sentences. Okay.
Oh, yeah. No.
Now, a lot of times go, well, okay, you can do that. Oh, no. Don't put that on me, man, because I'm going to take this down not to 29.5 or 29. I'm going to take this down to 25. And then you're going to come back to me after I do it. And you're going to say, client hates the spot, man, because you left this out. No, you do the editing. You present it to the client. You have it approved, and then come back to me. And I will bust my ass to make you an award-winning commercial with a good sell, with a good, strong sell, with the right production music, with the right impacts, and all that other horseshit that
right.
you and I understand and translates into, hey, that's a pretty good commercial, man. You know, when a listener's listening to us, like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to go out to that car dealer. That sounds like a deal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's not going to, like I tell people, radio advertising doesn't necessarily sell the product. It gets customers through the door. Then after that, it's up to the salesperson, the car salesman, or the hairstylist or whatever you're advertising for to do the rest of the work. Well, so let's get back to the original thing. Yeah, there are times when you go like, I really should not have been bitching about the salespeople, because that's a tough gig that they got. And I really don't want this person. I don't want Jason or Rod to go to their first radio station and think that all salespeople or any salesperson is a schmuck, because they got a job to do. And it's our job to help them sell the client, sell the product, bring the money in the door. And that's one thing as a production guy who's on the air, you, and I presume Rod, have a better understanding of than some jocks who just, not so many, jocks don't do 4 and out the door. They haven't done that for 40 years, I don't think. 4 and out the door, man, 4 and I'm gone. No, that doesn't work that way. So, but you think about stuff like that. To answer your question, you do think about it, and it comes back to you sometimes as, next time I see Jason or Rod, I'm going to say, hey, listen, the sales guy, he or she overwrote that copy, and that's just part of the process. And, we kick it back to them, they straighten it out, and they kick it back to us, and then we do it. And that's the way it works. That's the way the business is. It doesn't reflect. That doesn't mean that person is a bad salesperson or a bad person. He or she is just trying to do his or her best for the client. And you have that advantage, having been a production guy, to know that, hey man, you don't get money in the door. You said this at one of your earlier Facebook casts. You don't bring money through the door, you're shit out of luck, man. You ain't gonna be working long.
No, I mean, I've been involved programming and being parts of great radio stations that, you can build a great product, but if the sales staff can't sell it, doesn't matter, and that's where many radio stations have flipped formats over the years. A lot of times the product's fine. You've got ratings, you've got, things happening, but if you got a sales staff that doesn't get it, that's a problem. Talking nerdy radio stuff. How many times have you seen a radio station flip formats, right? And they go from jazz to alternative, because I've seen that happen a bunch of times in my career, been part of it actually. And they don't change the sales staff. Like, hey, wait a minute, you can train all you want, but unless you got people living lifestyles a little bit, you got to be in that wheelhouse a little bit. That's where the fatal flaw in a lot of radio station formats changing has happened. I've been blown out because of it. Station's doing great. We're not making any money. I'm like, well, it's because you got all these guys. They don't know what they're doing. You're not training anybody.
Yeah, I gave you a 5 share. We brought you in number 5, 2554 men. That's saleable in this market. And you're changing the format, and you're going to spin the wheel of chance. And hey, wait a minute. Before you start doing that, what do you think? Maybe you reorient your attitude and your sales structures so that you can get people who understand the product and sell it. Yeah, that has happened. When I programmed news, and I programmed News Talk, WGR, News Radio 55 AM, and News and Sports. We had sales guys who were not too bad. I don't want to run any of them down because it's a tough gig, but they came from music backgrounds, selling music radio. And it's a lot different selling 10 in a row, classic rock, alternative, country, light favorites from yesterday and today,
right,
that stuff. Than it is selling, the mayor's a real asshole and I can't believe he did this. This is really going to mess up Lower Main Street. And, so it's tough. And I would say to my manager from time to time, hey, you really got to have people out there who are thick-skinned and understand the benefit of talk radio or sports radio, because it's a different animal than, hey, how you doing today, man? It's a great day, and I've got 3 in a row coming up from Lady Gaga and Jason Mraz and all that other stuff, and it's an entirely different thing.
It's funny because people always say, well, do you listen to the radio when you're not on the radio? And I say to people quite often, I can't. And this isn't like me saying I'm awesome or I'm great or anything like that. And I always ask musicians this. Is it hard for you to listen to a song as a fan and just hear the song, or are you tearing it apart as a musician? For me to listen to radio stations, and I punch around all the time. I'm still a student of it. I still love to hear, how are they presenting this? How are they handling this? And you listen to commercials, because that's my wheelhouse, you know? And one out of about 30 might be pretty good. I think the quality control is just falling off so much. National spots even. I'm like, that's what we're doing with all the technology we have and all the great talent we have from writing, because that's where every good thing starts from, is with the writing. You can put all the bells and whistles and crap on afterwards, and that does add, it sweetens the pot, like you say, timing and everything and pacing. But how many times can you listen to the radio and just go, I can't believe that's even on the air? Maybe the quality's better in Buffalo, but I just know here, it's frustrating to listen to a lot of times. You know, when when in the early 90s, when everything, all of a sudden that Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, and that dividing line happened, and it just cut everything down the middle. You know, you had all the active rocks, and everything was like, I'm a badass, deep voice. Everyone sounded like that on the radio, and I'm like, man, I don't sound like that. I got to come up with a different way to get this done. So I always like, let's create cool content and not worry about sounding good, because I was never going to be that guy, at least in the early days, right? And remember how everything went deep voice guy on the radio, and you're like, how the hell does that guy have those pipes? And then all of a sudden it changed. It went to the guy's name, Keith Eubanks. It all went to, and it was all that filtery stuff. You realize, I've just found this out recently. The guy, John Frost, who's like a genius when it comes to all the imaging and all the alternative stuff. The PD, I forget if it was a K-Rock or whatever in LA back in the early 90s, said, hey, I don't want this deep voice sound anymore. I want a thinner, different sound. He literally went to the studio and went like this to give him, that tinny sound. And that's how that whole, like every alternative station in the country went to that.
Yeah, and a lot of CHRs, contemporary hit radios. Yeah.
Yes. Just 98.5, Buffalo's #1 music station.
That's where it came in a row. Like, the dude just went in the studio, okay. And then, how many times have you hit that little filter that you've already got your presets in your Adobe, and you've got it? I use the shit out of that to this day. I still use it. Although I do like the sound. If it's not overdone, it can enhance the reads, but it came from that. That's this massive thing. And Keith Eubanks, he passed away years ago, but he was the guy that did all like the 99X in Atlanta.
He was making juicy six figures just sitting behind a microphone like this or this or yours, and just saying, Kiss 98.5, Buffalo's #1 music station. Or
and he's just
100 New York.
All he did was figure out that setting and filter the shit out of it, and was like, okay, I'm just gonna read real deadpan now, and that's the shtick. And that's what worked for that guy.
Yeah. It's really interesting, the phase that we go through, these phases of, big Johnny Big Voice, back to back and all in a row. I mean, we had that at 97 Rock. So it's not me. I'm somewhere in the middle, and I appreciate what you were saying about, hey, that's not me. What am I going to do to cut through this? You worked with Gordy Dysinger, right?
Gordy, I learned to just let my freak flag fly with that guy, man. Like, he taught me, because I was buttoned up and nervous all the time and a scared, shy little kid, man. And I was like, holy shit. And I just had these nothing but eyeballs. Every time I walked in that radio station, I was scared to death, right? And that dude taught me to be like, dude, and he never said it. Just by watching him, I was like, okay, this I can do. I can be that guy without being quite that guy, without the tinfoil hats and shit. But he opened up a can of worms for me that I'm like, what would Gordy do in this situation?
Gordy is one of the underappreciated, although guys in the business appreciate him. I mean, anybody who's spent more than 6 months in the business here in Buffalo should know Gordy Dysinger and appreciate him for his left of center, outside the box, conceptualizing things. He did a promo.
The way that you define crazy is so nice. Crazy in a good way,
outside the box, conceptualizing, But he did this promo. I swear this is probably 10 years old. And this stuff sticks in my head about he did this promo for some kind of specialty weekend on 97 Rock, and he wrote it up as, handed down from the tribal elders, handed down from sitting around the campfire, listening to the tribal elders. Maybe it was a deep cuts weekend or something. But the very fact that he used the campfire tribal elders concept just knocked me on my butt, and I remember I worked with him, and I came in and I said, dude, that's got to be on your demo. That has got to be on your demo reel. Put it on your demo reel, number one, top, first thing. Because if they hear anything else, they should hear that first, because that's you. You have defined what you are good at. Wow. Go with it. And, Gordy's laid back, cool. It's like, okay, all right. So you never know if he did it, but it was like, thanks, I appreciate that. And he was just smooth like that. He was just smooth.
He could pull off writing. I mean, it all comes from the writing, man. It's always about the writing and the concept. Like when you started talking about the elders and you're just doing it, you can smell the smoke when you start. If good writing, if you can feel it and taste it, that's where it all comes from, man. That I could see the elders sitting around the campfire. I'm like, holy crap, this is good.
Yeah. And trading stories about, well, this one is from Led Zeppelin, the first album. You have to listen to this one. This is some Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill. This one features the idea, and that's the whole concept of deep cuts, tribal elders sitting around the fire, exchanging stories,
Brilliant.
And Gordy wrote it that way.
I can't wait to steal it, man.
Hey, it's in the public domain, more than 10 years old. Knock yourself out, but when you do it, keep Gordy in mind, And so, you think about things like this, what we do, how we do it, how long we've done it. It was great. And it's great to talk to you. And it's great I get on Facebook and I see something you posted or something Rod posts. And I'll see that from other friends too, Tom Tiberi, Slick Tom. I'd see that from guys that I know around the country, guys that I've worked with in Buffalo who are in markets like New Orleans and Houston and Tampa, St. Pete, and like that. I read their stuff and I think that's a pretty good community we got here. We're good people. We're not perfect people. We're not saints. We're not privileged. We're very lucky. We get to do what we enjoy doing, what we think we do well, in an environment that we can use to do what we like to do, and hope that it impacts people who listen. In some way it touches them. When somebody says to you, hey, Jason, you're talking about cleaning your shed out the other day and putting all that stuff out in the garbage. And I was listening to you. I had you on the back porch or whatever. I don't know if they have porches in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Porches like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know they got front verandas and stuff like that. But anyway, the person says, I was doing the exact same thing. I was doing that you were talking about. So when you say that, that you touched somebody in the head and in the heart. And that made your job good. That made what you do valuable. That honestly, you can't get from a lot of radio stations that just do here's another 22 in a row, or even some of the jack stations with, the snarky jack stuff. You're there saying, hey man, the garbage men are going to hate me this week, man, because I cleaned out my shed and I got 30 yards of crap in front of my house, man. And they know who I am and they know where I live. I am in deep shit trouble. So I'm sorry, guys,
But that's what's cool about like rock radio or, classic rock, even alternative, we're lucky. I've been lucky enough to work in those formats my whole career. And you always have where you can be the relatable guy. You're not just, I've never been spoon fed. You must say this liner. And if I do, I always put in my own words anyway, because it makes it more relatable. But yeah, we do get to do that. What's weird for me is, and it's not anything new from any jock on the air, is, people are like, wow, you talk to like thousands of people every day. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm in a room by myself and it's one person. And which is a pet peeve of mine. When I hear people on the radio, some of the best jocks in the world, hey y'all, how is everybody doing? And I'm like, man, I was taught that from day one. You're talking to one dude. And I'm like, this is where it goes back to my earlier point about it's hard to listen to the radio because I tear it apart so much. And
well,
again,
yeah, it's funny because we have this routine. We used to have this routine. A friend of mine and I would mock this pretty good jock. He was a good jock, but he was notorious for doing, "How you doing, everybody?" So to rip him, and it's good natured stuff. I'd see her and I go, "How you doing, everybody?" Or she would say the same thing to me, and and it was one of those things that broke the ice, and
Sure.
it's kind of like instead of saying hello. But you're right. You're not talking to an auditorium. You're not talking to 2,300 people at a concert setting. You're talking to usually one guy, maybe 5 or 6 guys who are working construction, doing drywall, or I don't know, yard work and things like that. But still, you never say, "Hey, y'all, what's up?" I mean, and I understand that y'all, there are certain idioms in certain parts of the country that work in the place of you. So you don't say, "How are you?" You say, "Hi, y'all. How y'all doing?"
Which is true, but that's, I mean, when you hear everybody, you just hear that and you're like, and it's weird. It's just going back to my point of, it's hard to listen to radio for that reason a lot of times. And getting to the other point about when you try to do a good job, and I'm never satisfied. So every day I tear my shit apart. I'm like, tomorrow let's try it like this. But what's weird for radio, and it helps with social media a little bit, but no one goes out of the way to go, "Hey, man, I was cleaning out my back porch, and you said that thing about the porch. That was really cool." That doesn't happen. And it's like you're in this vacuum. So you're throwing stuff at the wall, and nobody ever sees it. Or you don't know that anyone sees it. It's that feedback chain that's weird, that we have like if you're a stand-up comedian, you work in a play, you are in movies, even though that's a delayed reaction, you can see that, hey, we had a $20 billion weekend this weekend. We did well. Radio, you don't ever really get that, because what do you got to do? You got to connect with the audience, get them to remember you, get them to write you down in Arbitron, Jesus, there you go. Nielsen, you know what I mean? Like, so the connection. I used to have this thing, I was the imaging guy for an alternative station, and I would talk to my program director all the time, and I came up with this thing. I said, my goal is to get someone to hear something I made and look at their radio dial in their car. If I can get, and of course, I'm never going to see that happen, but if I can get someone to if I can get something to snap that well in whatever I've made, whether it's an asinine statement, a cool piece of production, if my goal is to get them to be driving along about their day, not caring about anything, looking at bees, and all of a sudden they go, "What? I've won. I've done my job." Now, again, I don't know if that ever happened, but that was always my goal, which is crazy.
It's a great goal to have. And it's a great goal to have whether you're an imaging guy, production guy, or an on-the-air guy. And it's a tough thing to do because I know how people listen to radio. You're in a PPM market, a personal.
Actually,
people,
we're not.
No, we're a diary market?
We're still a diary. After Katrina, that's when that was 2005.
Wow.
We're coming around to the PPMs, right? They're rolling that shit out.
Right.
And we didn't have humans here. And the radio companies, we had no advertising, much like everyone else is going to experience in the next couple of months. Right. We did this already. We've been down this road. And by the way, it's not fun. So none of the radio stations had any money. Our population was in upheaval. People were slowly trickling back. So we're all the radio companies were like, "Hey, we don't have money for this rollout. We can't spend money on this changeover stuff." And the companies who had stations that were doing well were like, "Yeah, we're not going to agree to this," because everybody in the market had to agree,
right,
to do it, right? All the companies. So they're like, "Well, we're already kicking ass, so screw that. We're not changing." So we're still a diary.
Write it down, right? Write it down.
Write it down, baby. So you got to thump people on the head with something. You got those 7 guys. You got those 7 vocal guys. Remember the old days they'd call the radio station, "You're playing too much Rush. You're playing this song over and over again." And my answer now is, yeah, I am. And I'm going to keep doing it because anything you say doesn't matter because you're one of 7 people who are the most vocal, biggest pains in the ass, although we appreciate you, of the radio station. It's everyone else that we're playing to. We already got you, man. You ain't going anywhere. You're going to have to just live with our bullshit. It's everybody else we're trying to get, you know?
My attitude is that we love you. We need you. Go get a beer. Come back and check us out in about 15 minutes. This is only one song. I guarantee you the song we play after this, you are going to love it. You're going to say, this is good stuff, man. I'm glad I didn't miss this one. But yeah, we play a lot of Rush, and we play the same seven songs, and we rotate them and all that other stuff. But I got to tell you what, we tried playing Xanadu, putting that in heavy rotation, and man, people are saying, what are you playing this shit for? And we'd say, this ain't shit. This is Rush. This is Xanadu, man. This is good stuff. Nah, I don't like this, man. This, why don't you play Spirit of Radio? Why don't you play Closer to the Heart? Why don't you play Working Man? Yeah, right. It's a tough gig, and it's going to get tougher because, you got Alexa over there. Hey, Alexa, play Xanadu, or, whatever.
Right.
And that's what we face. I don't know where radio's going. I don't have a crystal ball. All I know is I like being in the trenches, the excitement of being part of the crew that rows that boat. I don't have to be the captain of that ship anymore to chart the course. I'm content handling the mainsail and rowing the boat and swabbing the deck, and I do it well. But I have no idea. I have no idea. I just hope it's still around in 10 years because I still think it has value. And my buddies and I talk, we solve all the world's problems over beef on weck and chew Labatt blues, although we haven't done that. Honestly, we haven't done that in 3 months, and it's probably going to be another 3 months before we do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talk about, well, this is what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. The fact is, we don't know what's going to happen. We just, we got to try to make it happen. And that's demanding stuff. It's tough because, it's like being on a football team. Hey, I'm not the star quarterback, but I block for the star quarterback and I take the hits for the star quarterback. And nobody's going to sack my star quarterback while he's back there as long as I'm on the line. And I'll get run over sometimes, but 99% of the time or 90% of the time, I'm giving this guy the time that he needs to complete that pass or to run that play. And that's it. That's all we can do. And hopefully we're working for people who have the same attitude of like, okay, we're going forward with this thing. We're moving forward. We're going to try to make it work. Do you have a 10-year plan? No, nobody's got a 10-year plan. You got a 10-year plan? You got a 10-year plan? You don't have a 10-year plan. Don't bullshit me. You don't have a 10-year plan, pal. You don't have a 10-month plan, especially now. You may not even have a 10-week plan.
There's not a 10-day plan right now. There really isn't.
It's look, you want to bring revenue into your radio station. You want to keep listeners listening. You want salespeople to sell. You want people to get on board, to buy in, to like and value what you do. Mm-hmm. Everybody, it's all components. It's all these little, it is gears. It's that clockwork, a lot of moving parts, I had a program director said, I would always say, there's a lot of moving parts on this, a lot of moving parts. You got to make them all work together. A lot of moving parts. It's like, yeah, okay. All right. There's a lot of moving parts. I get it. But he was right. There's a lot of moving parts. You're hoping you're working with and for people who understand that you can't jam the gears because then nothing works. And you tell people, hey, listen here, I'm the oil. I want to be one of those people who makes the gears mesh.
I think radio is serving, just in general, whatever format it is, if they're giving out good information, not stoking the fires of conspiracy theories and trying to keep people right here. That's all I try to do every day is just keep people right here. Not freak them out, give them some information. It's good information. Do it in a fun, unique, interesting way. And let's just I think everyone's just treading water right now. We're all treading water. We're like, okay, this sucks, man. Where's the damn shore? Because this sucks. And the longer you're out there, you're like, okay, this really starting to suck. Keep treading that water, man. Just keep treading water. Because this is gonna eventually we're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's just when. That's the problem.
You hit on something that's really important. You having been through Katrina, New Orleans probably has an advantage over every city in America, certainly every city its size. And Buffalo and New Orleans are probably the same size, or relatively the same size.
Pretty much, yeah.
They always talk about media markets, and it's like, well, Buffalo, Green Bay, and New Orleans, the smallest media markets in America. Yeah, but the stadium is always full. It's always full. The team could go. The Buffalo Bills could go 6-10. The Saints could go 4-12. The stadium will be full. People will buy in. That is their team. Same thing with the Packers. But in any event, getting back to your point, and it's a very good point. You said it about 5 minutes ago. New Orleans is probably better equipped to handle this than any other city in America, certainly any city its size, because of what it's gone through with Katrina. And you survived. And those were dark, dark, dark days. When I saw people on the roofs of their houses with floodwaters up to the second floor or up to the roof, people begging, please just get me out of here alive because I feel like I'm going to die. I need to be airlifted out. When I saw the Superdome, is it a Superdome? Is it still? It's the Mercedes Dome now, or Mercedes
Superdome, yeah.
When I saw people in the Superdome and then the roof started leaking, and I thought, holy crap, you go to a place where you think it's a haven and it's safe, and all of a sudden that's falling in on you. But you survived. You made it. You did it. You did it because you got money from the government, which is essential, but you pulled together. Now, I remember reading something how people went to Baton Rouge. We were talking about the ratings because Baton Rouge was close. A lot of family was Baton Rouge. So they went up the road to Baton Rouge. It was dry ground. It was high ground. They went to Jackson, Mississippi. And, some of them went to Birmingham, because that's where family was, but they came back because they had faith and they believed and they wanted to be part of what was very important to them. And that was New Orleans. And hopefully, I think you hit a home run with that line, because I never even thought of that. That fact that New Orleans might be the template for the rest of the country. That you have hit a walk-off home run out of the park. That's a Ginty classic.
The thing about that, though, is obviously, you look at it in a massive scale. Yes, we've come back, and there are parts of the city that are great, and things have improved in a lot of different ways. And it's been a beating. Don't get me wrong. You can, it's been almost 15 years now. So yes, we've got 15 years or so to look back and go, wow. Or no, 2008. I don't remember the year. I've blocked out on my skull so much. So that being a moot point about the year and stuff is that it was a struggle. But yes, people decided, like myself and my wife at the time, we made his decision. We're like, we can move. We both can get jobs somewhere else. Where do we want to live? We had that long discussion, right? And it's a brutal discussion to have. It's a weird discussion to have. But then we both were like, you know what? When I moved to New Orleans, I knew I was never going to leave because I just fell in love with the city immediately. There's just, there's that vibe. You walk into a room, you walk into a place, there's just a vibe in the air. There's something it's an intangible. When I moved to New Orleans, man, something smacked me in the face and said, this is where you belong. And that's why I love it here. So we made a conscious decision to stay. And we're like, we're going to do whatever we can, however we can, to help the city. And, we did some volunteering and we did whatever we could along the way, and we worked our asses off. And the good news is that the rest of the country doesn't have to pump out bazillions of gallons of water. Like the stores that are closed, if they can reopen and all that, go turn the lights back on. It's going to suck, but you don't have to go through the physically rebuilding and all that. Yes, there's going to be businesses that are going to be gone forever. It's going to be weird going, wait a minute, I used to go eat there, and it's gone. That sucks. But I think there will be lessons that people can take from New Orleans because we did figure a lot of stuff out. And basically what it means is help your neighbor. That's what I learned. Help strangers more than your neighbor. Like if someone's loading wood in the back of their truck, get your ass over there and help them do it. That's what people were doing here. And it was amazing to see. And, you know, the small cities like Green Bay, like Buffalo, Buffalo's got a great camaraderie. You go to a Bills game, man, and it's insane, first of all. But people are tight, man. When you're a Bills fan, you're a Bills fan. There's no, you know, and same thing with the Saints. Our community as a whole was brought so tightly together because of the Katrina situation, you know. And then the other beat, we just had the 10th anniversary of the Deepwater Horizon, where the 230 million gallons of oil pumped into the Gulf of Mexico. So we took like a bunch of hits right in a row, and it was brutal. But those things, man, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I hate to be a cliche guy. I'm telling you, I'm hoping, and I'm no crystal ball guy, but I'm hoping that we recognize a bunch of mistakes that we've been making as an overall society, and we can kind of clean some of these things up as we move forward once this is over, I hope.
It's a perfect place to end this.